Hello and welcome back to the Magickal Cottage. It's almost Lughnasadh. We're approaching the beginning of August, and this is the season of the first harvest. Now, some people call Lughnasadh Lammas. Lammas is actually a more Christianized form of the name for this time of year. Lammas comes from the loaf mass. So it was the time of blessing the loaves of bread. And actually, baking bread is one of the activities that a lot of people associate with Lughnasadh or Lammas. In my circle, we prefer to call this holiday Lughnasadh in honor of the god Lugh. So today I'm going to show you how to make a corn dolly to celebrate this season. The corn dollies can be made at different times of the year, and I have made them at different times of the year, usually within the harvest season, but they are a type of a little poppet, and they date back centuries. Actually, the corn dollies that are popular now are made out of corn husks. And of course, corn, or Indian corn as they used to call it, in Europe they call it maize, is actually a totally different plant or crop than what they harvested in Europe centuries ago and even today. So corn to them is what we might call wheat. And there are some wonderful wheat weavings that you can view online, and they would also qualify as corn dollies. Okay, so they can be made out of woven wheat, but I'm going to show you a simple way to make a corn dolly out of a corn husk. Okay, so corn is a totally different thing in Europe than it is in the United States. And of course, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you're about to celebrate Imbolc because our seasons are flipped. Okay, so this is an activity for Lughnasadh, whenever that might fall on your calendar. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a simple corn dolly, similar to this one. Now, they can be a lot more ornate, and we have had some fun fashioning lots of different types of corn dollies in our group when we've celebrated. And here's one that I like to hang up. And she's a little witch. I mean, she's got the hair, she's got the broomstick, and here's some of the wheat, which is totally different activity. But you can do the wheat weaving with this sort of wheat. And very, very beautiful projects that people can make. But here's a more intricate one. And I wrote a blog post about making corn dollies a few years ago, and I'll post a link to that because it shows more examples of some of the corn dollies that we've created. Okay, now, why do people make corn dollies? Very interesting history. Back in the day, hundreds of years ago, predating the arrival of Christianity, the pagans, as many pagans today, believed that everything in nature has a spirit. And so the crops that they planted, of course, had a spirit, had a corn spirit. When they went out to cut down the crops, they imagined that this spirit of the corn was fleeing into the next live plant until that spirit got to the very last plant in the field, and that's where it resided. So they carefully fashioned that last corn plant into a corn dolly. In some communities, the oldest woman in the community would make the corn dolly, and in other communities, the youngest woman would make the corn dollies. And there is actually a history of some sort of either wheat weaving or fashioning some sort of a poppet or a dolly, even back into ancient Egypt. So it's a very interesting history, and that's the reason why they made corn dollies. Okay, it wasn't just a decoration, it was something, a place for the spirit of the corn to reside. All right, so I didn't grow this corn. This corn husk came from a store, okay? Somebody harvested the plant. They took the husk off of the corn, and then they saved this, and that's what I'm making it out of. But what I am considering is that this little doll represents what I harvested so far this year. So this is the first of 3 harvests, okay? We've got Lughnasadh, and then in September we'll have Mabon. That's the second harvest. And then Samhain, around Halloween time, that's the 3rd harvest, okay? And also, what they would do with the corn dolly, in Europe anyway, is the last person in the area to finish harvesting their crops was the one that had to care for the corn dolly over the winter time. And then in the spring, when they were ready to plant the first crops, they would return that corn dolly to the earth. Okay, so that was the procedure. So that's what you do. Now, we don't do that. I like to save mine. And some people say, oh, you have to burn it. But I save mine because I really like them, and they're my little spirit dolls in a way. And so what you can do with your corn dolly at your Lughnasadh ritual is to consider it as part of the things that you have harvested so far this year. Those things that you have been able to manifest, bring into your life, and harvest, and keep it as a reminder, and say, these are the things I harvested. Now remember, like attracts like. So this little doll will be kind of like a good luck charm, I guess, and help to attract more beneficial things into your life, okay? So let's get started creating our corn dollies. So what you're going to need to create your corn dolly is, of course, some corn husks, either twine. I like to use bind wire. It has some wire in it. It's very strong, but you can use any kind of a twine or cotton thread, even yarn if you wanted to, although make sure it's a really strong yarn because you're going to be pulling it tight. And you're also going to need a pair of scissors. So these are the corn husks that I've had soaking in water overnight. You can buy them in a lot of supermarkets here on the West Coast, or you could probably order them online. And I'm blotting out a lot of the excess moisture between 2 towels here. You want them moist, but not dripping wet. Okay, so I've taken about 4 of the leaves. Okay, I've got the camera pointed down here so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. And here I've taken that leaf and I've opened it out, all right? So get them, and you want to try to find ones that are about the same size for this part, because in your package of corn husks, they're probably going to be different sizes. All right, so I'm putting them together like this. And at the narrow end, you see how it's wider down here? At the narrower end, I'm going to take a piece of my cord or my twine or my bind wire, and about this far down, I want to make sure I leave enough at this end, maybe a couple inches there, and I'm going to tie it or twist it nice and strong a couple times around. Then I'll go this side. So this is going to be a basic corn dolly, okay? I'm not going to get real fancy. I'm just going to show you the basic way to make one. And now I'm going to take the leaves and flip them over so that they cover up the end part where I had tied it. In fact, I'm going to cut off this extra wire And I'm going to be flipping it over so that we have covered up that end piece like that. See how it's hidden? All right, one more time. Here it is. I've tied it. All right, now I'm going to flip the leaves up. Up and over themselves. So that it looks like this, okay? Now, can you see where the head is going to be forming right here? That's what I'm going to make next. So I pre-cut some pieces of this spined wire, a couple of pieces. And I'm going to create the neck of the corn dolly right here. So make sure everything's pulled nice and tight and smooth. Now, if I were going to make hair, then I would have done something a little bit different. I would have used more corn husks and I would have pulled some of these, left some of these out, but I'm just showing you the basic steps right now. All right, so another piece. I don't think I need such a long piece, actually. All right, and make the neck. So we have our little head and we have the neck. And I'm going to pull that nice and tight, really, really tight. I'll bring it around another time. Now, if you're using twine, something kind of brown colored, I mean, on some parts of this, you can just leave it. When we create the waist, you could use it and make it look like a little belt or something. But I'm going to just trim that off now. Leave that in the back there. And then there we have the head, and here's the body. Now we want to make some arms, okay? So I'm going to find a smaller corn husk leaf, and I've got this one here. And I think what I'm going to do, because I don't want the arms to be really big and fat, so I'm going to trim this right down the middle, or cut it right down the middle to the pointy part. And then I'm going to flip it so that we've got the two pointy parts on either end. And these are going to be the arms, okay? So I need to divide her in down the middle here. It could be a him too. We've made a lot of male ones. So there'll probably be 2 corn husks in the front and 2 in the back. Now, you see how right there, this one's longer than that one? Don't worry about it because you can trim it up when you're all finished and make everything nice and even with your scissors. All right, so here's one way to just put your arms through there. Now, if you wanted to take some twine and you know, make these a little more fancy by shaping the arms a little bit more, you could. But remember, we're just doing a basic corn dolly right now. So now I'm going to take another tie and tie her waist. I'll make this a female one, okay? Tie her waist and bring it around the front and tie it again. You want to double tie it here. And if you want to get real magical, do three knots. 1, 2, 3. By the power of 3 times 3, right? Make her magical. All right, so now I've got the head, the torso, the arms, and this can be a skirt. If you were doing a male, you could somehow figure out how to divide the legs. Might need to cut it up the middle, and you could put some more ties down at the bottom and make that the feet, right? Okay, so to finish this part up, I am going to decide how I'm going to make the hands and how long I want them to be. I mean, obviously, nobody's got arms that long. And if you want to, when you are putting them together, you can have the arms down here. As in the one that I showed you previously, I have the hands down here. A lot of corn dollies, though, you're going to see that the hands are just sticking straight out. So I have a little bit of this wire left over, so I'm going to come out here. And I think this is probably where I'm going to make her wrists. Twist it around there or tie it, depending on what you're using. And then to see where the other one would go, I will bring it in like this and see, okay, that's where they meet. So I'm going to put my wire right about there. Give it a couple of twists. And this is your basic, your very, very basic corn dolly, okay? Now, obviously, nobody has hands that long. They're very long fingers, unless you wanted to make it that way. I mean, it's your doll. You can make it any way you like. And I'm going to trim it off so it looks a little more like hands. There's the fingers sticking out. And then I'm going to want to trim up the bottom. And if you get it nice and even, then oftentimes the corn dolly will stand up. Okay, so I think I need to trim it a little bit more on this side. So I'm trimming off the excess and trying to make it nice and even across the bottom. And there she is. She stands up. There's our little corn dolly. Okay, pretty easy. You can just follow the steps. As I said, I will post a link to my blog post, and there are pictures there showing how we did this. Now, she's still wet. She could go moldy. All right, so you want to, here where I live here, it is nice and dry. But if you live in a place that has a little more humidity, you might want to put her in a very low oven or put her in front of a fan or a warm place that's not humid, dehydrate her possibly, to dry out, because you don't want the corn dolly to go moldy, all right? So decorate with your corn dolly, put out the sunflowers. I love sunflowers at this time of year. I always decorate with sunflowers during the month of August. Bake some bread. Celebrate the first harvest and have a very blessed Lughnasadh.